All right, so today we're talking about the power of habits, and the title is, well, just that, the power of habits, why small changes can make a big difference. Mike and Jody know I've been reading this book called Atomic Habits by James Clear, and one of the quotes that I kind of wanted to start off the conversation with is, habits can help you achieve all of these things, but fundamentally, they are not about having something, they are about becoming someone. And my whole life, maybe you guys can relate. My whole life, I've been really focused on how can I get the biggest changes, how can I get the most exciting changes, and you know, focusing on small changes, especially when it comes to habits, really never really interested me because they weren't as exciting. However, now what I'm noticing is that if I make these small changes specifically around habits and do it over time, then they actually end up being big changes. And the book also mentions something where these small changes, they're meaningful changes in your habits, actually end up creating becoming big changes. So there's a paradox there. Um, and then, as you all probably have experienced in your lives, your habits become your help build your identity. And so this is the last little concept, and I'd love to open it up. But every action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become. No single instance will transform your beliefs, but as the votes build up, so does the evidence of your new identity. This is one reason why meaningful change does not require radical change. Small habits can make a meaningful difference by providing evidence of a new identity. And if a change is meaningful, it actually is big. That's the paradox of making small improvements. So does any, when we're talking about habits and identity, for me, this all kind of felt set. Like God gave me a set identity, habits, personality. And now as I'm older, I realize that all this is really malleable. Like I can change my personality, I can change my habits, that therefore changes my identity, which is really cool. And I'm curious if Nathan, Mike, if any of you guys have any personal stories that come to mind when talking about habits and identity. And welcome, hey, welcome Josh back on as a listener.
Yeah, Josh, good morning. David, small, tiny changes in your habits make you a better person, more successful, a happier person, and makes your sphere happy as well. For years and years and years, I've always been an 8 a.m. wake up call. I will not get up before 8 a.m. I need my sleep. The body's got to rest, et cetera, et cetera. And then, and over time, as I've acknowledged that I need to improve that, it started at 7:30, and then it got to 7, and now it's at 6:30, and maybe one day I'll get to 6, but I'm waking up a little bit earlier and earlier, and that little extra room that I'm creating for myself helps me accomplish things that I typically would have not accomplished in my day. That's made me a better person and made me better for my sphere as well. So definitely little things like that do work.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like I'm glad the topic actually is on the little things and the habits. There's a book called Make Your Bed by William McRaven. He's I believe, a revered Navy captain. And he had a famous speech where he, talked about making your bed in the morning to a bunch of college graduates. And I feel like that goes with the same premise that, you accomplish small things, and those lead into the bigger things that you can accomplish in a day. And, there's a saying that you have, the art of winning is in your preparation. But I actually feel like for me, it's kind of opposite. It's, the art of being prepared is in winning. And my mentor and actually the owner of New Venture Escrow, a good friend of mine, he told me that. And essentially what it means is if you've got, a busy day ahead or you've got a big task that you have to accomplish, sometimes you can get the nerves worked up. And so the best way to accomplish it is by starting in small spots of your day where you can have accomplishments that build up to those. So little wins that add up to the big win. And I don't know if you guys have ever had those super busy days where you start off and it's just kind of hectic and everything's rolling into the next thing, and you never have a chance to get nervous. It's just a kind of a blur, and you feel like it was such a successful day because one win led into the next. And that's kind of how I like to set my morning up, is with small accomplishments. Now I don't have the same luxury to sleep in it until 8 now with a 16-month-old that's still not sleeping through the night. In fact, this
Ditto.
morning I was up at 4. So it gives me a chance to kind of do all that stuff while he's over with mom taking care of him.
I love it, man. I appreciate that. I know getting up at 4 and then getting on a call at 8 a.m. May seem a little daunting, but I know as a fellow dad, you're probably used to it. It's part of the territory now, and you've adapted. And that's another topic too I'd like to discuss in the future, is just that the mindset of being a parent, and you have to adapt. Because and even as your kids get older, I know Jody has older kids, and I'm sure she can testify to that. Like, just, hey, as they get older, new challenges, so you have to adapt as a parent and how you parent. But getting up early, man, that's a great great kind of fundamental principle to live by. Again, not everybody is a morning person. I am. I get up at when I'm in my groove. I get up at early too, trying to do 4:30 nowadays because, again, I have a 1-year-old and a 4-year-old. But everybody's different. I have a lot of my team members who prefer to work till 3 in the morning, and I'm like, God, I could never do that. I could never go past a certain time. Call me boring, but I prefer to go to bed early, wake up early. But I love what you said about both of you guys, Mike and Nathan, talking about the little subtle changes that create that long lasting change in your life. Do you guys have anything any kind of mode or principle or how do you get back into that mindset when you've been shaken up? Your day kind of shook you up. Like, Nathan, you talked about being so busy, you're in a flow state, and everything seems to be going really well. That's where I always try to operate from. But let's say I'm not having that type of day. I allowed some little petty thing to get my mind off. How do you get back to focusing on those small changes, that create the big changes?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. So I try to surround myself with people that I can lean on. So I don't always have those great days, and I think we can all attest that, sometimes you wake up in the morning and you're just not feeling it, and that day is like you'd rather just kind of sit there and not do anything that day. So I try to set myself up with a few. I wouldn't really call them accountability partners, but in a sense, I guess they're somewhat motivational partners. So whether it's my coworkers or some colleagues within the industry that I call like Josh, for instance. If I'm having an off day where I'm just like, this is, I'll give them a call. And, and just in talking to them, the funny thing is, if they're having a bad day, I all of a sudden turn into, I try to motivate them. And then in turn, me trying to motivate them motivates me. And then it kind of goes both ways. So it's not necessarily an accountability partner, but rather just somebody that you can talk to and get a good conversation out of and start the day and kind of get a groove going.
I'll tell you a little trick that I have that I've been practicing over time when needing to step into a harsh environment. Some customers are more intense or dramatic than others, and when I have to make that hard phone call because things are tough and we have to keep grinding through it in order to get the right documents needed to get the loan approval, and I know that I have to make that tough call, is I'll call my favorite customer first. How you doing? Nice to hear from you. How's life? Is there anything I can do to help you? Get some positive feedback, feel positive energy, get the positive so I can fill my gas tank up of that, good positive mindset, um, um, get positive feedback from the client, knowing that I'm going to go into the trenches on the next phone call to get hammered on. And then once I make that tough phone call and and work with that customer to find the right solution for them. And I get off the phone call and I know my gas tank has now just gotten drained pretty quickly. I'll stand up and I'll make another phone call to one of my favorite clients that's a fan of mine that to help fill my tank back up again. Seems to help me keep going through those days when that one client could potentially, affect the entire day.
I love that. Yeah, it's like you've mentioned something similar in other talks where you're just, hey, how can I build that momentum with these small conversations, or short conversations rather, with clients? And so you go to people that are going to charge you up. And similarly, Nathan, that's awesome. If you hear somebody who's probably in a similar or worse situation mindset wise, it's funny how we kind of jump in as a coach almost, and you're like, well, no, it's almost like we believe in them more than they do at that moment. And so by coming in and just saying, look, let's readjust, reassess, like, you're actually doing really well, and you help them out, you indirectly help yourself out, and you get yourself out of that funk. So I'm a huge believer in that. We kind of tend to do that almost not consciously, and I love the whole small wins. I always go back to basketball because that's what I grew up playing, and anytime my outside game was not going well, it's all about getting layups, right? It's in baseball similar, right? Get a base hit, and then as you continue to do that, you build your confidence, you build momentum, and then that's how you go into potentially your next more challenging experience or more challenging stage. So I love, one thing I do want to mention that really stood out to me is just the identity thing. And one of the quotes that I took away from the Atomic Habits was, true behavior change is identity change. You might start a habit because of motivation, but the only reason you'll stick to one, it's because it's become a part of your identity. And so a lot of times when we're faced with challenges, we rise above because that's been part of our identity. It's been part of who we are. So, just today, guys, first and foremost, thanks for everybody who's watching, listening, and for anybody who hears this after the fact. Tune in. We do this every day. 8 a.m. has been a huge hit for us. Nathan and Mike, thanks for sharing your 2 cents. I'd love to have more of these conversations. I feel like having these shorter conversations, 10 minutes or so, can help us all feel like, hey, we get charged up and we're not taking, half hour, an hour of our day to do this. Real short, sweet, and simple. So thank you guys both. And, as you go about your day, I encourage you to find time to observe your thoughts, your emotions, your actions, and decide if those choices you're making create the person you want to become. Again, like the whole identity thing, and if it's going to help to create the future that you want.